Hello, and welcome to my channel, Compass Starlight. I like to read a couple cards. These are sort of personality cards. Start off my little energy reading. Just talk about what's going on. So, hey there, howdy. Let me see. We're going to do one card. Let's see. What are the energies of the recent past? And the energies toward which we should aim and focus our attention. Let's see. These are really beautiful cards, sort of gilded. The first one is 10, the High Priest. Spirituality. Think beyond the everyday. The second one is theology. Humility. Trust the higher wisdom. These cards always speak to me. I actually wanted to talk about the path. Walking the path. Recently I was looking through some old photographs and I was really struck by how I represented myself and how I was perceived by my peers and by my family. I was definitely perhaps a little lost or confused in my expression, but it was only outwardly, my outward appearance, the way I dressed, the hairstyles I chose. And it makes me wonder if that was truly, if it was actually an expression of my true self that I have suppressed over time. And looking back, I can see in the same eyes of judgment how I have shown myself, and I am not sure that I would go back to such a similar expression. I do think that there are ways that I'd like to modify how I express myself in outward appearance. But it's interesting to think about how in this time we are sort of forced, as the paradigm changes, we're sort of forced to think about how to keep masculine and feminine in balance. And so when it comes to dress, it's really interesting. Anyway, I'm not sure that I'll say more about that, but the path, I always wanted to walk the path my entire life. And I think that desire to follow my ambition, my mission was really kind of pushed out of me by others in my environment, and I allowed it to happen. And now so many years have gone by, it's really difficult to see my path and my mission. Yes, I recognize it, but to stay aligned with it is very difficult because I'm so used to living otherwise. So, for example, I've always loved walking outside, particularly in the woods. There were times in my teen years where I thought that I just wanted to walk forever. And the irony was that I lived on an island. Yes, I could walk and walk and walk around the island. The other thing about it is that, well, in theory, you need to hydrate and eat. Of course, there must be stopping points. But that was something that made me feel good. It gave me an opportunity to think, or conversely, to clear my mind, and I suppose allow for the answers and to allow for the solutions to enter into my life. But I did not see how that path would serve me when in my environment I was being encouraged to get an education, a good education, and go to college and to make a career for myself, which I never truly have done. I suppose I have a profession, something that I do very well, something I have been um, engaging with for over 10 years, but I have at times taken hiatus. I have done things that are completely different. But prior to those 10 years, what I did for work varied. I wasn't the kind of person to job hop. I don't think I've ever been fired in my life. I definitely one job from which I should have been fired. But so I suppose that means I had a contract that ended, and then I had 2 layoffs. But I've had so many different jobs, and it wasn't like I was jumping, job hopping from job to job, like running away from something. But sometimes I'd move to a different city or state, um, or the business for which I was working had closed. Okay, so I went off on a tangent. Um, I never really had a career that I wanted to choose for many, many years consecutively, such as my father had my entire life up until this summer. He finally retired in a field in which he worked for almost 50 years. And I thank him for all of his dedication to providing for the family. And I thank him for all of his hard work. And I'm proud of him for sticking with it through all those years, which also meant missing out on some highlights of the lives of his children, even his wife, my mother. But he really did do his best to make a nice life for our family. So Thanksgiving. Coming back to the path, walking the path. I specifically go walking. That's what I like. And I realize that I am in love with my vibration. I recognize it. I realize that when I come home, when I enter a room, my vibration is what my feline companions hear. It is how they recognize me. So when I walk, I am pounding my vibration into the earth, and I love that. When I walk, I make the animals aware of my presence because I am magnificent, and I clear my path. Sometimes, however, being that in particular I prefer to walk in the dark, I might walk down a very dark path or an unlit street, and the darkness is enveloping. And like a fog, fear and doubt roll in inevitably. It has been of recent my greatest challenge to stay positive and to trust and to have faith and to keep an open heart. I have to remind myself constantly to come back to that because that's not the primary pattern by which I have been living for the past several years, unbeknownst to me. I was just unrecognized. So as I walk down a very dark street with woods on either side, and I can hear the trumpet of the deer. It's, if you're unfamiliar with the sound, they blow through their noses with quite a force to make a honking noise, or sometimes they use a lighter breath exhalation, which makes a sort of choof choof kind of noise. I hear them pound their front feet against the soil as they initiate their movement away from me as a warning, as I warn them, I'm coming through. And I hear coyote in the bushes occasionally. I might be hearing other things because I might be hearing raccoons or skunks. Truth be told, coyotes are very quiet unless they're being vocal. Very quiet. The stealth amazes me. Nonetheless, the sides of the path are wooded. Animals reside there. I know they are there. And as I walk in the darkness, fear does creep in to my psyche. And occasionally I can see at the end of the path or the end of the street a little bit of light. And I try to focus my attention on that temporary end goal. And likewise, as I walk my path through life, every day I try to stay focused on the bright light, the proverbial light at the end of the tunnel, which is my joy and happiness. I have good things coming to me, and I have to stay focused with that faith that I will receive. For if I let fear creep in, then I will refuse the abundance out of my inability to recognize it. And I encourage my viewers to follow your path. Find your joy, hold it up like a lantern, and shine it out for others to see. Let it light your path as you walk on your spiritual journey. And there are a couple messages that I just wanted to add to that. As you're walking through life every day and become distracted by the tasks and chores or obligations of everyday life, of the people that cross your path, don't give away your power. Do not give away your power. Guard your power. You have the power. Don't give away your power. I know my value. I know what feels good and what doesn't. I keep that in mind. You may like to consider for yourself how to keep yourself in line, how to keep your mind in alignment with that focal point that gets you to your vortex, that focal point that is your joy. And another message, I picked up a book today that has some sayings of White Eagle. It is called Quiet the Mind. Every now and then I like to randomly turn to a page in a book. This one says, "Be patient, have faith." We know, beloved child, the sorrows and the difficulties of the material life lived in a physical body at present unawakened to the beauty of God's worlds. We know how hard it is to pursue the shadowed path. You have to walk in darkness to accept the conditions in which you find yourselves, trusting in the love of the great white spirit. This is not easy, we know, but have patience and faith. Never doubt that all works together for good. Never doubt the power, the wisdom, and the love of God. Yea, though I walk through the valley of death, all those messages apply. If you've walked your path or been pushed away from it, and you've been alone, judged, and offended, with darkness closing down on your heart, putting out the passion flame of your heart, building walls, it's time to learn to open your heart and to receive the gifts of abundance that are meant for you. Quiet your mind. Connect with the God source. Allow the energy to move through you. You're here for a reason. Honor the Great Spirit. And in doing so, you too shall be blessed.